You know the feeling. You're in the middle of a really tough conversation with your partner, and then just nothing. All communication just grinds to a halt. The air gets heavy, and you're left standing there in this sudden, suffocating silence. Well, today, we're going to break down that silence. We're going to look at its architecture and try to figure out if it's building a wall between you or if it's actually creating the space to heal. Okay, let's get into it.
This is the question, isn't it? The one that just echoes in your head. You said something important, something vulnerable, and you get crickets. You're left wondering, are they mad at me? Is this a punishment? Did I say the absolute wrong thing? What is happening? Honestly, the anxiety of just not knowing can be so much worse than any angry words they could have thrown at you.
And this quote, wow, it just nails that feeling. This isn't that comfortable, peaceful quiet you can share with someone. No, this feels active. It feels oppressive. It's like you can literally feel a physical barrier going up, brick by painful brick, leaving you on one side, totally shut out and totally alone.
So to really get to the bottom of this, we have to make a super important distinction. Because, not all silence during a fight is the same. There are actually two fundamentally different types, and learning how to tell them apart, well, it could literally save your relationship.
Okay, so here are the two sides. On one hand, silence can be a completely involuntary biological thing. We're talking about being emotionally flooded. The brain's fight-or-flight system just takes over and can actually shut down the parts responsible for language. The person physically can't talk. But then, on the other side, silence is a choice. It's a tool, a weapon, used to punish or to control, or to just flat-out avoid dealing with things. One is a physiological state, the other is a tactic. Big difference.
So the million-dollar question is, how on earth do you tell which one you're dealing with? I mean, in the heat of the moment, it can feel impossible, right? But thankfully, there's a really clear framework we can use. So let's look at how to identify the most dangerous, most toxic kind of silence, a behavior called stonewalling.
This term, stonewalling, comes from the incredible work of Dr. John Gottman. This guy is one of the world's top relationship researchers. He literally spent decades in his lab studying couples, and he identified very specific behaviors that are massive predictors of whether a relationship is going to make it or not. And stonewalling, it's one of the absolute worst.
In fact, it's so bad that it's one of what Gottman famously calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for relationships. Yeah, one of 4. Just let that sink in for a second. When stonewalling becomes a regular thing, it's a giant, flashing red light that the relationship is in serious, serious trouble.
And let's be crystal clear about what we mean here. This is not just someone being a little quiet. This is a complete and total withdrawal from the interaction. The person basically turns to stone. They become completely unresponsive. And this behavior, it does more than just stop the conversation. It sends a devastating message to their partner. And that message is, you do not matter. To me, right now, you are invisible.
Okay, this chart right here makes the difference so obvious. Look at toxic stonewalling. The intent is to punish or control. There's zero communication, just an abrupt shutdown. And the timeline? Who knows? It's indefinite, which leaves the other person just twisting in the wind. Now, look at healthy silence. The intent is totally different. It's about calming down. And crucially, it's communicated. There's a clear statement and, most importantly, a specific promise to come back and talk.
All right, so we know how to spot the problem. But what do we actually do about it? Let's shift gears and get practical. We need a toolkit, because it's not just on one person. Both partners have a really important role to play in changing this dynamic for the better.
Okay, if you're the person who tends to shut down, this is your playbook. Number 1, you've got to develop that self-awareness to recognize when you're getting overwhelmed. Then, and this is the hard part, instead of just vanishing, you have to use your words. You have to say, I need a break. And number 3 is vital. Give a specific time frame. I'll be back in 20 minutes is a million times better than just, I need space. And finally, you have to keep your promise. You have to come back. That is how you build trust.
And this right here is exactly why those steps are so non-negotiable. Because for the person on the other end, when you go silent without any explanation, it doesn't feel like you're taking care of yourself. It feels like abandonment. It pushes all those deep, primal buttons of rejection and fear.
Now, if you're the one on the receiving end of the silence, you have a job to do too. If, and this is a big if your partner does communicate that they need a break, your job is to respect that, to give them that space. You also have to work on managing your own anxiety and not immediately jump to the worst-case scenario that you're unloved. But, and this is so important, you also have every right to set a boundary that flat-out, punitive stonewalling is not acceptable in your relationship.
This is what stonewalling feels like, an empty void. Nothing. No words, no explanation, no reassurance, no idea when it will end. It's a vacuum where a connection used to be, and it is just incredibly damaging.
Now, compare that empty void to this. This one sentence. It changes everything, doesn't it? It acknowledges the feeling, I'm overwhelmed. It clearly states the need, I need 20 minutes. It provides a specific timeline, and best of all, a promise of reconnection. This isn't a wall. This is a bridge to a better, calmer conversation later on.
And that really gets to the whole point. The ultimate goal of any pause, of any silence in the middle of a conflict, should always be to serve the relationship. The goal is not to win, it's not to escape. The goal is to get back to connection.
You know, when it's used the right way, silence isn't a threat at all. It can actually be a really powerful, almost sacred tool. It becomes a moment of mutual respect, where two people can take the space they need to breathe, to regulate, and to come back to each other more centered and actually ready to listen. It becomes a bridge back to understanding, not a wall of resentment.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you find yourself standing in that quiet, tense space with someone you love, ask yourself this one simple question. Is what's happening right now creating space for us to heal, or is another brick just being laid in a wall between us? The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know.